Good evening and welcome back to the public portion of the May 15th regular council meeting. We've had a long in-camera session on a couple of items, and there is a motion arising from it, I believe. Councillor Wagoner.
I would move that council move to censure Councillor Montgomery via letter of reprimand for violating sections 5.1, 5.5, and 6.3 of Council's Code of Conduct bylaw number 18-09, and that council direct Councillor Montgomery to write a letter of apology to the resident and to the Wheatland Housing Management body for displaying unprofessional behavior on April 26, 2024, when an email was sent asking for private donations from a resident. Councillor Montgomery has no right to ask for donations on behalf of the town or Wheatland Housing Management body.
Thank you, and we have a motion on the floor. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Wiley?
Sure, I can start us off. So council is asking to pass a motion to censure a fellow councillor, to ask a fellow councillor to write a letter of apology, a reprimand. So my comment comes with a story. If you're used to me yet, that's how they all seem to go. This evening when I left the house, my two youngest daughters, age 11 and 5, wanted to run up and give me a monster hug on the way out the door. A monster hug entails me getting down on my knees, extending my arms, and the two little girls running, giggling and laughing into my arms where I pick them up. When I went into public office to become a servant of the people, I did it so I could serve. When I leave my children at night and I come here, when I could be tucking them into bed or reading them bedtime stories, here I am. I did this so I could, at least I tell myself I did this so I could do good things for the town, for the people. I am not doing this. I am not sitting here so I can admonish, censure, reprimand my fellow councillors for speaking their minds. I am not here to criticize, to condemn, to wag my finger at fellow councillors for saying things that offend me, for saying things that maybe they shouldn't have said. And finally, if the public has a problem with what any one of us is doing, then the democratic process is to kick us bums out in the next election. That's democracy. And so it would be a very rare situation that I would ever approve censuring or reprimanding one of my fellow councillors. So I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, discussion on the motion? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you. Just so the public's aware, I guess I want to just kind of cite the sections of the procedure or the code of conduct here. So section 5.1, that says, a member must not claim to speak on behalf of council unless authorized to do so. Section 5.5 says, no member shall make a statement with intent to mislead council or members of the public. And finally, 6.3, members shall accurately communicate the decisions of council, even if they disagree with council's decision, such that respect for the decision-making processes of council is fostered. So, based on this motion here, it says displaying unprofessional behavior. And it talks about, as I mentioned, section 6.3 mentions about not supporting the decisions of council, and then claiming to speak for council. So those all sound fairly serious, or even worse. No member shall make a statement with the intent to mislead council or members of the public. So I'm going to read the email that I sent to this resident just so that people have an idea of what I said that way people can judge for themselves. So it was received from a nice lady who said, "Hi, Pat and town councilors. I would like to show my support for the new hospice and lodge. This is desperately needed in our community. This new project will alleviate some strain on existing healthcare facilities and services in our community. Community consultations and presentations are well supported by many different age groups and residents. This project has the full support of both Wheatland Housing Management Body and the Wheatland and Area Hospice Society boards, which has representation through the breadth of our county. Many volunteer hours and $4.1 million have been contributed to support the hospice portion of the build. I realize my municipal and provincial tax dollars will be needed to build the lodge and contribute to operational funding of the hospice, and even though I myself am not currently utilizing these facilities, I recognize the importance of them to keep our community whole." And so my response was, "Hi, resident. Thank you for contacting me with your expression of support for the new lodge and hospice project. I appreciate your willingness to see your money going towards these projects and think it's great to see that kind of support. As you might already know, as a supporter of these projects, the amount the town spends on seniors housing will be going up if and when the new lodge/hospice is built, possibly in the range of 8 to 10 times what we spend now in the first few years of operation following completion of construction. As you probably recognize, seeing our requisition for seniors housing going up so drastically is going to mean a lot of extra tax dollars will be needed at a time when many in our community are already stretched to the breaking point. To help alleviate this problem, I am seeking generous members of the community who are happy to see their money going to these worthwhile projects to put forward more than the amount they would otherwise have to in order to make this financially feasible and sustainable. Would you be willing to put forward some amount more per year on top of your usual tax bill to help these projects happen? I expect that if some of our more financially well-off residents, such as yourself, would put forward an extra $5,000 to $10,000 per year, it would make a big difference in making this a great option for our community. Can we count on you to contribute extra to this project on an ongoing and yearly basis? And if so, how much? Thank you again for your show of support." So, as you can see, quite unprofessional, first of all. And so I guess to speak to section 5.1, a member must not claim to speak on behalf of council unless authorized to do so. So I did at the one point say, can we count on you to contribute extra to this project? So that would be the one part where people are purporting, members of council are purporting that I am attempting to speak on behalf of council. I certainly wasn't, and that was not my intent. I was actually speaking on behalf of members of the community at large. That's my role here. I represent the community. The next one, 5.5. No member shall make a statement with the intent to mislead council or members of the public. So the only thing I say in here where I'm, putting forth information would be where I say that if and when the new lodge/hospice is built, that we will see an increase in what we spend on seniors housing, possibly in the range of 8 to 10 times. The town will spend at least 8 to 10 times what we spend now, okay? That's what I said. And I hold true to that estimate. I can prove that estimate using the numbers that have been provided at public consultations. And at the June 5th meeting, I will be attempting to share those numbers with members of the public so that it is black and white what I said and what I can back that up with. Okay, so there's been comments like for instance, saying that my response is unsubstantiated. I will substantiate the information that I have provided here. I will demonstrate that what the town will be spending will be in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 times what we spend now on seniors housing. And finally, 6.3, members shall accurately communicate the decisions of council, even if they disagree with council's decisions, such that respect for the decision-making processes of council is fostered. So at no point in time in my email to this resident do I say anything about not supporting the project. In fact, I say it's great to see support like this. It's great. I say the project is worthwhile. Let's see here. And you know what? And in fact, I use my position as a representative of people in this community to even help make the project more feasible. So, yeah, I will admit that not a lot of people know about the fact that that what we spend on seniors housing will be going up so drastically if and when the lodge/hospice project takes place. That is entirely accurate, and that is information that I think is important, at least for council to know. And I have been open to having that discussion. I've brought the discussion forward, but haven't had a chance to kind of have that fulsome discussion yet. But in any case, I don't personally agree that I have violated, for the reasons I've just kind of spelled out. I don't believe that I have kind of violated the code of conduct. It's an interpretation that by me saying we, I was attempting to speak for council in that one part. Yeah, you know, and I guess, and yes, at the June 5th meeting, when I'm better prepared, I will kind of speak more directly to the effect that this might have had on, you know, this particular resident. And, but yeah, you know, I respect council's right to censure me or to hold me to account for this egregious and unprofessional behavior. And perhaps, yeah, you know, I might not always, you know, think that, I guess, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. I don't want to say anything that would be construed as not supporting, you know, council or something like that. So, but yes, you know, I welcome your comments, everybody, so thank you.
Deputy Mayor Langmaid? Councillor Wiley?
So far, I've only heard two people who don't support the motion. I'm assuming at some point someone's going to explain why the motion is being made.
Councillor Peterson?
So I think I definitely agree with the motion. I think that council does have a responsibility, otherwise we wouldn't have a code of conduct. Everybody sitting at this table approved the code of conduct, and so if it's there, then it has a purpose. And as someone who has breached that code of conduct and publicly apologized for it, I see acutely the purpose for it. And so the public has a right to expect behavior befitting this office when they elect us. And of course, they can unelect us as they choose, but that doesn't forgive the behavior, poor behavior in the meantime. And so I think that in perspective, at no point in time did council or Wheatland Housing Management Body ever say that a member of the town of Strathmore's council could solicit funds from individuals in the amount of $5,000 to $10,000. This did cause some angst, and the member that received the email communicated that they were not pleased with this at all. But when word seeped out into the community, there were other people to whom it caused genuine distress when they thought that by writing a letter of support for the council and the lodge, that they had now indebted themselves. And so that was an extremely difficult outcome of a misdirection by Councillor Montgomery in this regard. And so I think that council did not direct it under 6.3. I know that he didn't possibly mean to mislead the resident in terms of thinking that she was required to pay the $5,000 to $10,000. But even, and if that wasn't the outcome with regards to that resident, it was the outcome that happened. And Councillor Montgomery does not speak on behalf of council. So I think that this is a very, very serious breach, really, but a very minor reprimand. And I don't sit here either and like to do this. But we have an obligation as members of this council. If we doubt that, we don't have to look very far in our community to see that councils have an expectation to follow the Municipal Government Act and to follow their own codes of conduct.
Deputy Mayor Langmaid and then Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I agree with all of what Councillor Peterson has just said, and that's not the message that Councillor Montgomery included in his email is not a message that I would ever want my name put on to another resident. And that it could have been perceived that way is troubling to me. And it's not something that I would do for a cause that I feel important to me, but perhaps isn't aligned with council. I'd like to add that Councillor Montgomery there was an opportunity for Councillor Montgomery to apologize prior to this motion coming forward. Council, I believe, would have been accepting and I believe council, or at least I would have accepted that apology, but it didn't come forward. So unfortunately, it didn't leave us with a lot of options. I'm sad that we've made it to this point. I was hoping that as a group of residents that have been elected to this office and who have great respect for this office, we could have found a solution to this and hopefully prevented it even happening beforehand, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So it's unfortunate that we have to move forward on this. I don't take any pleasure in it, and I hope we never have to do it again. But I will be supporting it this evening. Thank you very much.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. So just to make it clear again, what I said to this resident, I said, to help alleviate this problem, I am seeking generous members of the community who are happy to see their money going to these worthwhile projects to put forward more than the amount they would otherwise have to in order to make this financially feasible and sustainable. So I believe that that makes it pretty clear that there was no intent to mislead the resident or anybody else into thinking that they were obligated to pay the money or that council was expecting them to pay anything over and above what they would have to for their normal tax bill. It clearly says, I am seeking generous members of the community who are happy to see their money going to these worthwhile projects to put forward more than the amount they would otherwise have to in order to make this financially feasible and sustainable. Would you be willing to put forward some amount more per year on top of your usual tax bill to help these projects happen? See, because I wanted, yeah, I think that, you know, it's important that, you know, when we support things, I think that it's important that we do support them like that. So, yeah, I think there was, it's, you know, it's open to interpretation if the one "we" at the very end of the email was intended to speak for council or not. I say it's not. It was never my intent to speak for council. Unfortunately, the investigation of this particular, you know, crime, you know, has been a bit brief.
I don't think there's a need to equate it to a crime.
Well, I mean, like, okay.
I think
let's
that's,
treat it. We'll treat it seriously then, okay? And then, yeah, section 5.5. Well, anyways, so yeah. Let's. Thank you.
My comments on this is that there was an ask for funds, additional funds from this person, and it did in fact, the sentence does in fact use the word "we," can we count on you, along those lines. And that came on an official town email identifying Councillor Montgomery as a town councillor. So a person reading that could see and feel that he was speaking on behalf of council. And another thing is, if the email does indeed sow some doubt in the reader of the email, which it did in this case, then how does that demonstrate support of a council-passed motion concerning the lodge build? So I will be voting for this motion, and we'll see where it goes. Councillor Montgomery.
Well, thank you. Just in response to, like, you know, showing support for the decision, you know, here I am actually taking, you know, going the extra mile to help try to make this a feasible and sustainable option for the community. So I would say that, if anything, I'm demonstrating, and obviously, you know, as I mentioned before, I said the project was worthwhile. I mentioned it's great to see the support from the resident, and yeah, I think that's...
Point of order, Your Worship, that's not what the reprimand is about.
Well, I think section 6.3 refers to not supporting a council decision.
That is, I think 6.3 is that you shall accurately communicate the decisions of council.
Oh, is it 5.5?
And so, point of order, Your Worship, Councillor Montgomery has already said that he regrets this, and he, you know, I liked it a lot better when he was talking about where he erred as opposed to where he was right in saying to a person that some of our more financially well-off residents, such as yourself, would put forward an extra $5,000 to $10,000 per year. If Councillor Montgomery knew this resident was extremely well off, it still wouldn't have been okay.
And my concerns are, if you're seeking extra funds from residents, how does that work to support council-passed motions, and how does that engender confidence in the lodge project that has been passed by this council?
Well, actually, so like part of like the impetus for this email actually was my concern. As I mentioned, like what the town will spend will be 8 to 10 times more than what we're spending now. And I mean, like other members of council, I understand how stretched, as I mentioned in this email, how stretched many members of the community are. And, you know, we can break, you know, our tax increases down to, you know, number of Happy Meals per month, or, you know, number of, you know, pizzas per year or something like that. But these are real costs to real people, and these people are already stretched to the limit. And so when I get an email from a resident who's saying that they're happy to see their tax dollars go towards this, I think that's great. However, it doesn't make it any easier for the other people that are being dragged along with these decisions and forced to pay these taxes when they might already be stretched. And, you know, like for us, you know, like I said, you know, when our costs, you know, on something are going up 8 to 10 times, you know.
Your
from
Worship, this is out of order. This is not where Councillor Montgomery is being reprimanded. It has nothing to do with the numbers. The numbers in
You're
the
not
present.
even letting him speak. Like,
But
just
he's,
let him
he's
talk.
out of order, Counselor Wiley, and so the mayor can decide whether or not he's out of order.
The motion does not speak at all to the statements about the money or the,
Well, it says it's misleading. 5.5 says that he's deliberately misleading the public. Yes. And so if he's trying to show that he's not deliberately misleading, then he's explaining the situation.
No, Your Worship, on the point of order, he's not, because in the explanation sitting right in front of us, it speaks specifically to the reason for the reprimand. And the reprimand has nothing to do with the numbers, other than the $5,000 to $10,000 that he was soliciting from an individual.
Right, and I'm explaining why I was asking somebody who expressed that they are happy to see their money go towards the project. And my email that I'm being, reprimanded for, I mentioned how my concern is because of the fact that so many residents are already stretched to the limit. And while I think it's great that people show support for projects, everybody has to keep in mind that other people are not necessarily of the means that they are, and they might not be able to take an 8 times to 10 times increase in what the town spends on seniors housing, the same way other residents can. And if there is some generous resident out there who can cover a portion of the bill so that we don't have to increase the cost for other residents as much, that to me, and that's why I sent this, because if we can get people to support this, okay, and maybe I went about it the wrong way, maybe I did, okay, but you know what, my intent was to basically save the people who can ill afford another increase. We're increasing, like fees, we're increasing taxes, we're increasing, everything. We've got franchise fees cranked up to the max.
Point of order, Your Worship.
And yet, here we are, and we're not even,
I think we're just
we have
we're just
yet to have a
dealing-
discussion about what this total project will cost. And that doesn't mean I don't support it. I want to make it as easy for
Point of order, Your
residents as
Worship.
possible.
At no point in time did we talk about the 8 to 10 times amount that Councilor Montgomery referenced. What we did say was that at no point was anyone authorized to solicit $5,000 to $10,000 from residents, from individuals. They were not authorized by this council, and they were not authorized by Wheatland Housing to do so. And they were certainly not authorized to do it under the auspice of this council. And yes, I understand all Councilor Montgomery's arguments. I said in the actual presentation last week, I recognize there's a 163% increase. In my tax bill per $100,000 of assessment, it meant going from $1.98 to $4.44 per month. That's what it meant. So when I said that he amplified the risks, that's what I mean, and then amplified it again by saying that that he could solicit $5,000 to $10,000 from people. It's misrepresentation, and that's why we're here today, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor Langmaid?
Thank you, Your Worship. My concern with section 6.3, or the censure, the reference to 6.3, where members shall accurately communicate the decisions of council. Council has decided funding sources for this project by resolution. The funding sources have been determined, and that did not include soliciting donations from residents to make this project go forward. While donations would be, I'm sure, greatly appreciated, those can be made by someone who's self-identified themselves as wanting to make that donation, and they can self-identify themselves to the actual organization that's planning this project. It shouldn't be coming from council when we've already determined the source of this funding. We're not seeking generous individuals. We have decided and budgeted for this. The decision has been made within certain off-ramps that we have identified. Nothing in those decisions or resolutions that were unanimously passed by this council identified soliciting donations from residents. It is not accurately communicating the decision of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Wiley?
According to the legal system, for somebody to be found guilty, they would have to be guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
This is not a justice system
Well,
or a court.
I would hope it's just. A member must not claim to speak on behalf of council, okay? He clearly said I throughout the entire email, and then at the end said, can we count on you? That could be interpreted as we, the group of people who are looking to fund this project. I don't see that beyond reasonable doubt. 5.5, a member shall make a statement with the intent to mislead. There's no way you can convince me that he intended to mislead. 6.3, member shall accurately communicate the decisions of council. There's been no inaccurate information on the decision of council made. I say not guilty. I'm just ready to be done with this. I'd love to have the vote.
There's one thing I would caution is that we don't just read part of a statement or sentence, that there is more to that statement than just that little snippet that was taken. You have to look at the whole thing. So I would caution, and I would say to the public, take a look at our Code of Conduct bylaw. It's on our town website. Read the entire statements, and you'll understand why this has been concerning to some of us. Are there further comments?
Call a question.
We have a motion on the floor, and I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And opposed? The motion is carried. Deputy Mayor Langmaid, I would like to turn the rest of the meeting over to you to chair. I am increasingly unwell, and I will be asking you for permission to leave this meeting.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to try and move forward, given the time of evening. I hope we can move forward as efficiently as possible. A question to administration on procedure moving forward is, will a motion need to be made to refer the remainder of the closed meeting agenda 7.2 and 7.3 to a different time in the evening?
Thank you, Worshiping Council. That's ultimately up to Council. The Council may defer the items 7.2 and 7.3 to the end of the agenda if you so wish.
May I speak to that, Your Worship?
Councillor Peterson.
7.2 is a very short item, Your Worship, and there are extenuating circumstances regarding that require some urgency in terms of dealing with it. And it is a very short item. But I would think that we could defer the urban hen bylaw and just deal with the property tax, and then we still, and everything else that's under 11 is through the consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
May I propose, I know this night is going on forever, but a short 5-minute recess where we could take a moment and sort of prioritize what the rest of this agenda could look like, maybe?
I think there's only two things, Your Worship. I think that if we deal with the property tax bylaw and we deal with 7.2 in camera, that's probably sufficient. Unless,
I would like to
Well,
make
you
a
could defer
motion
that
to,
other-
I would like to make a motion to have a 5-minute recess so we can
I'm fine
just
with
figure out what we want the agenda to look like.
All right, we've all heard the motion. Does anyone have any comments regarding that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. We're on a 5-minute recess.